I love the way she moves, yeah. When she's watering our garden with the headphones.
Hi guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Tess, if we haven't met already, and I am a licensed esthetician here on YouTube. I also make a lot of other skincare related content. I have a TikTok I'm really having a lot of fun with. I'll put my handle here so you guys can check it out if you want. I have my esthetician Instagram, which is full of advice, skincare tips, all kinds of things, just bits and pieces of my life as an esthetician. And I also have a podcast with one of my best friends, Lauren, who's also a fellow esthetician. So those are some free resources for you guys to go follow if you are interested. This video is specifically for those of you esties who are graduating, but even those of you who are thinking about esthetician school and what comes after. I know right now is a very bizarre time to be graduating, to be an esthetician in general. It's a crazy time. I can't imagine being in school under these circumstances with COVID-19, and I know I would have a lot of anxiety and things going on in my head. So I hope this video helps to ease those worries a bit, as well as give you a few practical calls to action that you can implement to help you get your first job out of esthetician school. I love you guys so much. I hope you're doing well. It feels so good to be sitting down and talking to you. I love you guys so much. Let's get into the tips. Okay, so this is a video I've been thinking about for months. I've been getting messages from those of you graduating, both good and some of you have been a little bit worried. So I felt like this was a very important video to make. I have a bunch of notes here. It's one of those things I wanted to make sure I got everything, all of the ideas in my head down on paper. So I might be referring back to this, but I have my notes. And then this video was actually inspired by a message I got recently from a gal named Madeline Hill, and she said, "Hey Tess, happy Sunday. Just wanted to let you know I've had a couple more interviews this past week and I have more scheduled for this upcoming week. I have a few places in mind I really want to work at, and per your advice on the podcast, it has worked wonders with getting interviews. I can't wait to see what unfolds. Thank you so much for everything you do," which was so incredibly nice, and she would have gotten those interviews without me, but I'm very just flattered, and it really warms my heart that she said that, and just to have a small influence on what you guys might be thinking means so much to me. I never thought I would be making YouTube videos or putting myself out there, so the fact that it changes people's perspectives, changes their lives in a small way means so much to me. You guys have no idea. So I'm super grateful for those of you who reach out and talk to me, because I'm a very shy person and not normally confident like putting myself out there for people, but the fact that I'm doing it for potentially a higher purpose or to help somebody out is the reason I do it, and the reason I can push past all those fears. So thank you so much. That's what I wanted to say first and foremost. I'm going to dive into my tips. My first tip, and this is if you can, where you are and you feel comfortable and you feel safe, or when that time comes and it is possible, I really suggest that you first start out thinking of a few places that would be your absolute dream job to work. By the way, these are all strategies I've implemented to get my dream jobs. So I always start with making a list of, let's say, 1 to 5 places, even 3 is great, places that you would absolutely die to work at, and then go get a service from these places. I think this is so valuable for a few reasons. One, you will learn what it's like to be a client there, to actually go there and be treated. And from that, I think you learn so much about the standard that is upheld in the spa, what the interaction is like, and you can kind of visualize what would it be like on the other end. You can also realize, wow, that service was incredible. It made me feel XYZ. It made me feel comfortable. It made me feel trusting. It made me have hope that I could have clearer skin and be proud of my skin. I think having that feeling is so important in propelling you forward. And and realizing that that's what you can potentially give back to somebody else. I talked about this in one of my first solo episodes on my podcast. I talked about the first job I ever had, and it started out with going to get a facial. At the time, I was working in media. I went to go get a facial at this spa, and I never had a facial before. And having my skin touched, being in that vulnerable position, and having somebody take care of me and, let me know it was okay to ask whatever questions I have, and, her having an answer for everything that came up, to me, I'd never seen or felt anything like it. And I never even knew an esthetician could be a job. Like, I never knew you could make a job out of skincare, which is something throughout my whole life I always loved talking about skincare, giving my family members like facials before I even knew what they were, like treating my pets to a little bit of facial massage. All these things I'd done my whole life, I never realized could add up to a job. So getting that service was so crucial because it was truly a pivotal moment for me that changed my perspective for my career trajectory. And the most incredible part of it was I wanted to give somebody else that feeling that I had had, and that is what pushed me forward. That was my why for all those long hours in esthetician school, for applying to jobs, for changing my career path. It all started with going to get the service. So that is what I suggest for you. You will also be able to actually see, which is so different from just looking at a website. You'll be able to see what is on the menu. You'll be able to look at the modalities in the treatment room. You'll be able to see the treatment room, which is so important. You want to like where you work. You're going to see the type of people that work there, the overall vibe. I think this is just one of the best things you can do to really set your intentions and get the best idea for the place you imagine yourself working, because I have had so many jobs throughout my life, and let me tell you, actually, what is behind the curtain and working for some place is so different from what you might imagine it to be. So anything you can do to get the best idea of what an actual day in the life working there is so important. And that's something, even if you ask in an interview, you may never really understand what it is actually like to work somewhere. So that's why I think being on the receiving end and being on that treatment table is one of the best things you can do to get really close to the action and see what the spa or this place you're going to work at is all about. Okay guys, I'm going to get into my second tip or strategy for actually getting the job you want. And this is not like a clickbaity type of video, get the dream job you want. Like, this is actually how to do it. This is what I have done for every job that I have manifested or gotten that I have thought is too good for me, too out of my comfort zone, just something that I never thought I could possibly actually have, working for some incredible magazines, working for E! News, working at Dermaplus, working at Credo Beauty. These are jobs I have gotten from, this is my secret, reaching out. And I really prefer reaching out, and this is my strategy for getting jobs, as opposed to looking at a site like Indeed that posts a job and has hundreds, thousands of people applying for that position. So what I'm proposing here, and this is after you've done step one, which is make that list of your dream jobs, places that you would die to work at. So what I'm talking about right here is reaching out to them. And by that, I mean finding their contact information, which is available for any job. It's almost too easy. Like, it's right in front of you. You can find the information on Instagram, on their website, on LinkedIn. There's so many ways to find the contact information. And if it's not the right person, if it's a general line, usually you can ask them to be directed to the right person. And this is a strategy I have used at the 2 spas I have worked at. I have always sent what they call a cold email, and it hasn't necessarily gone to the boss, but they have passed it on to the boss. So be confident that they will probably get your message. Don't let that be an excuse not to contact them. When you reach out, you are going to send your resume. You are going to do a little brief introduction of who you are, and most importantly, why you want to work at this place in particular, why it caught your eye, why you are so focused on working for them specifically. I like this strategy for a few reasons. The first is that it just sets you apart from the competition, and it invites you into a space talking to a company where there may not even be competition. So instead of being, a resume, just a file among thousands of other files and hoping that they find you and pick you to talk to you, this is specifically putting your name in front of their eyes in a way that sets you apart from everyone else. I also really like this strategy because you guys would be surprised. And from working on the hiring end, this is something I've learned, you would be surprised at how many jobs are available before they are posted. A lot of times it takes certain things getting set in place before a job listing can be posted. Maybe, somebody has to be let go, all these things. Maybe it has to be approved by an HR or a manager. It has to go through all these this long list of steps. And if you are just to reach out to them, it just really lets them know that there's somebody available who's eager, and they may have something in mind. They may have, plans for expansion. Maybe they are knowing we're going to let this person go, and it just puts you right in front of their face. So I would say it gives you a great chance to get an opportunity before it's even posted online. The third reason I really like this strategy is it shows initiative. It shows that you are seeking somebody else out, that you are a self-starter, that you're not just sitting back and waiting for a window of opportunity. You are actually going after what you want, and I think that is really attractive to employers. And a lot of people will say in interviews, I'm a self-starter, I am this type of employee. This is something that is actually an actionable item that shows you are that type of person, which is much better than just telling. Okay, my last note on this topic might sound a little bit silly, and you don't have to be the type of person who believes in this stuff, but it's just my personal perspective that actually reaching out yourself aligns you with this job on sort of a cosmic level. And I think it all comes down to manifestation. So if you believe in manifestation, I think this is a great strategy for you because it's really setting your intention. I think even you just envisioning yourself working at this place, you thinking about it, thinking about what it would be like to work there, and actually reaching out yourself and, taking that step to align yourself with the job. I think it all comes back to you. And it gives you a great opportunity to really align yourself with what you want. The third tip I want to recommend is to update your resume to reflect your esthetician skills. So maybe you've never had a job in aesthetics, maybe you've never had a job period. It's all good. What you can do is, if you have had jobs before, just not in the aesthetics industry, is sort of reframe your resume to reflect qualities that do transfer over. So an example of this would be maybe you have worked at an ice cream store. You can tailor your little bullet points about your skills to reflect how you increase sales or your really amazing customer service. Things like that are really valuable to employers. So it doesn't matter where you've necessarily worked, but if you can reframe it as a job that was very people-facing or heavily retail-oriented, I think those are very valuable transferable skills. The next part of updating your resume is sort of editing it to reflect what you learned in school and or your aesthetics background. So what you can do here is highlight things you learned in school and list out different courses that were part of the curriculum. For example, chemical peels or ingredients or an emphasis on acne. Second, what you can do is highlight things that you did in your spa. I think it's really amazing to build a portfolio. You can start an Instagram account that is sort of a portfolio of your work so that you have that to showcase to employers. And then another thing that you can do is highlight extra coursework that you took or any trade shows you've been to. I think it is so valuable to seek things out outside of school because school really is just the baseline information. It's amazing, but there's so much other detailed information out there that's so accessible. And I do really recommend taking outside courses if you can afford to do so. I think some of the things people look for are courses like, acne, ingredients, chemical peels, certain modalities like microcurrent, if that's something you want to do, different courses that really reflect what you want to specialize in and your interests in aesthetics. Tip number 4 is to educate yourself, and this is something that is ongoing. There's never a period of time where you stop learning, and I think when you do stop learning is kind of when the fun dies and when you might as well just get out of aesthetics because it's all about moving forward, learning what is current and now. So we always want to be educating ourselves, and there are both free and paid resources to educate yourself. I'm going to list a few of my favorites below. There are magazines, podcasts, books, Instagram accounts, podcasts. My podcast, I think, is a great resource, not to toot my own horn, but it's great because we have experts on in the industry. So lending their knowledge in addition to Lauren and mine, I think is what makes it so incredible. And where else or how else can you literally fold your laundry or cook your dinner or drive your car and listen to a great resource that's going to propel you forward in your career? So I think that's a really valuable and easy place to start out if you want to educate yourself, but maybe you feel overwhelmed or don't know where to go or where to look. The Treatment Room podcast is my podcast, but again, so many amazing resources. It's literally all at our fingertips. There's YouTube, there's Instagram, there's TikTok, if you can find somebody who knows what they're doing. Again, books, magazines, podcasts, Dermoscope magazine, Master Esthetician on Instagram, Noise Skincare, so many great, incredible people. So maybe follow some educational accounts as a place to start, and then start thinking about maybe some books or a podcast or different resources that you can find that help you out. Concepts Institute is also a really great resource. That is where I have taken all of my advanced classes, or most of them. So I will put that website below, but I know the owner, Michelle, who is a very dear mentor to me and one of the most incredible people I've ever met. She's been on the podcast a bunch, but Michelle Fallon is the owner, and she does do virtual classes. So if you're interested in taking something online, those are classes you would pay a little bit of money for, usually under $200, but I think it's always worth it to be taking new classes and continuing to grow as an esthetician. There's never a time where I take a class, especially with Michelle, and I come out of it thinking, why did I pay for it? That was a waste of my time and energy. No, it's always made me a better esthetician or inspired me in some way. Okay, my last and final tip for you guys is to understand that your first job out of esthetician school may not be your forever job, and that's okay. I don't mean to contradict myself and to say, you shouldn't aim for your dream job and you shouldn't aim high, but don't be disappointed if the first job you get isn't totally exactly what you want to be doing forever. I think those first couple years out of esthetician school, and I'm about 3 years out of school, so this is from recent experience, I think those years are really crucial, and I don't mean to offend anyone in saying not to get a suite right out of school, but this is something I talked about with Joelle Lee, I'll put her handle here. She was recently on the podcast. We talked about not getting a suite straight out of school. I don't mean to disappoint anyone or offend anyone who's done this, because if you have, that's amazing and I'm very proud of you. But it is my recommendation to spend those first few years learning, because again, what you learn in school is a baseline. Actually working for paying clients, people who have an expectation for their skin, it's a whole different ballgame. And just nobody comes out of school. This is something I talk about with every expert that comes on my podcast. Nobody comes out of school a seasoned, amazing, perfect esthetician. Looking at Noi Skincare, Donna Omari, who some of you may know from Instagram, looking at her Instagram account, you would think, oh, she's perfect. She's always been this way. She has amazing massage technique. Talking to her firsthand, she told me when she came out of school, she was horrible. She didn't have that technique she has today. It takes years of practicing and honestly sucking a little bit before you get better. And I do not mean to discourage anyone, but I do want to emphasize, I think there is so much value in working for somebody else and having those years to really practice and get comfortable, because that's also something that comes with time, just getting comfortable working on people with your hands on them, and again, working with that expectation to give them what they want and learning to manage that expectation. It's something that takes a little bit of practice. So if you can work for somebody else, make those mistakes, you know, while you're working for somebody else, it is just a way better deal than if you were to open something out of the gate and not have that previous experience of understanding how things can go wrong, what you can do when they do go wrong. I just think you're so much better off learning a little bit before you make the investment and go all in on your own business. And for that reason, I say if you can get a job where you're getting that hands-on experience, that's amazing. For me, my first job was mostly retail, to be honest. I learned a lot about retail. I realized it wasn't something I wanted to be doing 90% of the time. I realized how much I wanted to be working with people one-on-one in a treatment room setting, but I had to have that experience of working odd hours, working on a weekend, working in retail, in beauty, and sometimes getting my chance in the treatment room to understand how much I appreciated that time when I actually did have it, so that I now really am grateful for it and I really make the most of it. Now I have a great, almost built-in clientele that's, you know, right there for me. So I so appreciate that about my job and I'm very happy there. And had I not had my previous experience, I may not appreciate it as much as I do now. So don't get discouraged if your first job, you know, has its issues. It's gonna happen. It's just, you know, how it goes. In other industries, you have an internship and then you get a job. This is sort of like, you know, taking the steps you need to get where you eventually want to be. So my advice here is to be really patient with the process. And lastly, I want to emphasize not to get discouraged. I know, again, these are weird, crazy times. Don't let anyone tell you that aesthetics is dying out. It's not dying out. It's just evolving, and it's always going to be evolving. I think it's really interesting that the second regulations are lifted, the first thing people want to do are those self-care things. Get their hair done, get their facials, get their nails done. I think we really live in a culture that prioritizes self-care. How many times do you see on Instagram a post about self-care or a meme about, you know, needing to go back to see your esthetician? I think it's a career that is very, very needed. And as much as things are changing and you would kind of think that people are trying to stay away from personal touch, I think it's really at the heart of what people want most once they're able to get out of their houses. So I think it's something that's not going anywhere. I think it's really something that is going to thrive and evolve if you can evolve with it. So do not be discouraged. do not be scared. If it's something you love to do, just be patient and keep putting in the time. You're gonna have to work really hard. This is an industry where you are compensated for your hustle, and you can make this amount of money or you can make that amount of money. If you want to do this and that and find ways to upsell when appropriate and recommend a home care routine that your client trusts you to make because they trust you to make the decision that's best for their skin. If you can work it right and work really hard, I think there's room for everybody to go wherever they want to go in aesthetics. And you don't have to live in this box of doing waxing and facials and XYZ if that's not what you want to do. I think you can make it whatever you want to make it if you're willing to put in the hard work and the time. Okay guys, that is it for this video. I really hope it helped. You guys were at the heart of me thinking about this video and what would actually make it the most helpful to you. So truly, I hope it helped. Please let me know if it did and give this video a like, leave a comment if it helped you out. Please let me know what you would like to see next because I want to make videos that give you guys the most value. So please let me know. I love you guys so much and I'll see you in the next one.
Look up from your telescope, take me on this journey home.